Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here, Podcast Pete and certified high performance coach. And we have a special guest, the man that introduced me to streaming and StreamYard back in 2020 or 2019. It was a long time ago. So, Jim, thanks for being a guest. For those that don't know you, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into our podcast.
All right. Yeah. So, Jim Fuhs, I'm the president of Fuhsion Marketing. I'm a retired Marine lieutenant colonel, and I focus on helping people overcome their fear of going live on video. I do remote production, both live streaming and podcasting, as well as I'm the co-host of a show called Dealcasters. We're part of the Amazon Influencer Program. And so not only do we go live on Amazon talking about the gear, we like to say, don't fear the gear, but also we interview people and then we turn those episodes into a podcast, and a lot of our people in the marketing space, new books that really help creators. That's kind of our focus. And just enjoy sports. And then I also look to, support veterans causes, because that's obviously something near and dear to my heart.
That is awesome. Well, I want to thank you because, when we were doing a actual in-person event, COVID hit, we had to pivot, and they didn't want to pivot like you had suggested they pivot. So you introduced me to live streaming, and actually we were going to do it with a live event. So it was kind of a combination. So whenever I need something, I call Jim, and I hire Jim because he figures out, he knows the business, he knows the solutions. And it's so important today is you got to know technology, got to know how you're creating content. So I want to zero in on StreamYard for right now, and a new feature called Mars. And we were talking before we went on the air. So what is Mars, and how do creators, podcasters, what would they be excited about? What do they need to learn?
Yeah, so it's funny because I did a YouTube video where I kind of explained it a little bit, and so I'm wondering if people that are finding it because of the word Mars, is they right? StreamYard launched Mars, so it sounds like a rocket ship going to outer space, and even some of their graphics that they use in explaining it show that. But Mars stands for multi-aspect ratio streaming. So what that means is, right now, Pete's got this going landscape, which is 1920 by 1080. It's what you normally see Zoom calls in. And then it's also going vertical, which I think is 1080 by 720 or something like that. I probably got it wrong. So that's what you think of with the cell phone. And so the idea is we have this large group of people that is in love with, I guess, for lack of a better term, going live on their phones. And so in trying to give people the best of both worlds, people have said, well, I want to be able to go live, on TikTok and Instagram, but I also want to go live on my, Facebook, but I want to do it in landscape, but over there I want it to be vertical. So this is I'll call it the interim solution, because some of the things that we've already seen and we talked about a little bit before this is, I think it's a nice idea. I think where maybe it's helpful to podcasters, live streamers, is now I can take the vertical piece, which is already done for me, and I can use that for repurposing for promotion on these vertical platforms, whether it's shorts. I mean, even LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn wants us to do these short videos. In fact, you and I, when we were at the We Care Fair, did a Substack interview with the phone, and I was able to take a clip out of that and share Pete's experience with the Shepherd Center to my LinkedIn and to Substack as well as a vertical piece. But in theory, we could have gone live vertically, or I should guess say landscape, if we'd been in a studio environment, and then I would have had to figure out how to turn it into vertical. So that's I think really for me, it's more about the repurposing, but what we have also seen, and I get it, right? They just released it, more to come, ideally, is that like right now, you have a setup in this view that really it's fine for landscape, especially because it's just the two of us. And on vertical, it looks good. But if we went to like the normal look, you and I would look a lot smaller on the other screen, or people start to worry about their framing, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a way right now to like say this is the setup I want on landscape, this is the setup I want on vertical, right? They're not independent, they're codependent. Maybe that's the way to put it. Um, so I think that's one of those things that's not really clear with people. And so whether or not you really need it, I think is the bigger thing. Because one of the things you can do, which I think you do as well sometimes, Pete, is you can record each person independently. So you have separate video tracks. Well, then you can take that into a lot of this great editing software and you can make a vertical video out of that. You
Mm-hmm.
can even make it where I know in Descript where it'll change to the person speaking. So it can kind of like flip back and forth. So then that might be a more effective vertical video for you. Or like I talked to you about earlier, you could take this into Substack's back end in the drafts mode and do some editing there as well for shorts and for also for the transcription of it. So there's some things about it. I think I'm still trying to think in my own mind what would be my use case for doing it. I think more because the type of productions that I do and that my friend Chris and I do, it's usually more than two people a lot of times, and the graphics that we use, the way we like to bring things in, don't necessarily work well with the vertical piece. So I think,
Mm-hmm.
right, we don't, even when we watch YouTube videos, I think sometimes we tend to flip them, right? Flip our phone into landscape so we can get a bigger picture. Because maybe it's because we're old, Pete. I don't want to watch that little window, or I'll
Yeah.
watch it on my TV. So
Yep.
I don't know if it's just this infatuation with wanting to do everything on the phone, as opposed to using our computers, using our regular size monitors. For me, that's a better experience. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I have been watching because it just introduced like last Monday. So I'm just learning right now, and I've seen a couple things where I'll do my podcast and then I do my writing on the porch, and I'll write and then I'll edit a little bit, like because I like to just keep that creative muscle going. And I've noticed that the subject or the title of the video doesn't transfer over. So I have to remember what I think it's going to be, write it down because it doesn't tell me. So, they introduce one thing, but then it causes a little bit of problem on something else. And I'm a firm believer in keeping it simple. I mean, it's simple scales, complicated just confuses you. So you jump in, you want all these features, and you don't even know what you want, but you just want something new. You want that shiny object. I want
That's right.
something.
I saw that. I think that's what I want. But then
Yeah, exactly. What's it going to do? How is it going to work with your business? But you don't think about that. You just want something new just because it's new. So, what do you think? I'm mesmerized by the video, the AI, the technology coming. It's a lot to digest. What are you focusing on to keep that business simple, but yet keep up with technology?
well, I think that's a big part of it. In fact, it was funny because I thought about a comment that someone was talking about with framing. Well, this camera I'm using is it's a Instalink 362, and it has AI tracking. So, in theory, if I turn the tracking on, which I usually don't, because that I would start, if I start, now the good thing, right? If I start moving, it follows me. So maybe that works great if you're going to do the vertical stuff and you got a guest that moves their head all the time. It'll stay with them, but the background's going to change a little bit depending on where they're located. So
Mhm.
that's where AI cameras, can be a pro or a con, depending on your perspective. But I'm also starting to experiment with things like, uh, Google's doing a lot of stuff in the AI space. I really like some of the things you can do with Gemini to include some amazing things with, was it Nano Banana and their Flash and creating graphics and other things. But I also think, and my friend Chris was talking about how he's been having some lag with StreamYard and Chrome, and so we wonder, is it Chrome? So I'm actually using Atlas right now
Mm.
with this as a guest. I'm actually using StreamYard on Atlas, which right now is Mac only, because what I'm curious about is what we don't always think about is what's going on the back end of our computer. What's going on with the resources that are being used aside from the cameras, the microphones and all this stuff that gets plugged in. And not everybody has the latest and greatest computer. Not everybody has the world's best internet. And so how do we lighten the load to be effective? So just like when we were at, the Civic Center, I brought my own microphones, I brought my own Wi-Fi, right?
Mhm.
Because, if you're relying on public internet, you may not get a lot of signal because everybody's using it and it can only handle so much.
Mhm.
So part of what I'm looking at is how can I live stream in a sense on the road effectively, quickly, and have impact and not it always be a phone. So kind of my kit of choice at this point has become, I have an Instalink camera. I've also got an ObSpot that I'm starting to play around with that, I can put at a distance and zoom in and things like that. Wireless microphones that I can have for both me and my guests. So we're not necessarily, nothing wrong with passing a mic around, but you got to watch out for things like echo feedback.
Mhm.
Um, having that portable internet, not necessarily your phone as the hotspot, but something that's actually designed to be a hotspot. And so that way too, if you're traveling, it's easy for you to capture that stuff in real time. And I was on an audio only show last night and we were talking about this lady who's a travel agent was on a cruise and she wanted to go live on Substack, but guess what happens on a lot of these cruise ships out in the middle of nowhere? The
No echo
internet,
connection.
right?
Mhm.
So be prepared to just record the video, right?
Mm.
Think about how can I record it,
Mhm.
because you can always play it as if it was live later if that's what you want to do, or you've at least got that content that, like we talked about with, or I've talked about with Substack. I can put that into my Substack, create an article about you know, what this video was about. And then if you choose to go and watch the video, great. If you don't, that's fine too. Because we got to remember, and I appreciate the fact that you talk about that you're writing, because that's something that I wasn't always doing a lot of before. But even going back as us both being instructors, people have different learning modalities.
Mhm.
Some people are visual learners. Some people have to read things, right? Some people are auditory. So how can you provide content that provides all of that? And that's where things like ChatGPT, which is funny because I don't know if you heard it was down. It may still be down because of Cloudflare issue.
Oh,
Um,
but
so I
it's
I made a funny. Well, I call it funny. Probably some people call it sarcastic. I made a post on Facebook before we went live today. I said ChatGPT is down. People might actually have to think, right? Because you saw people like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, ChatGPT is down. Well,
yeah,
you have to use this thing up here. It's called your
yeah,
brain, and not
totally true.
rely on technology. And so I think that's part of the danger, though, too, Pete, is that we get so reliant on these tools
Mhm.
that, well, what would you do if everything got taken away?
Yeah.
How would you still communicate? How would you still be effective in whatever it is you're trying to do for people. I mean, nobody really has, well, maybe there's a few people that still have landlines, but most people now have cell phones. But
Mhm.
then, now you have that challenge of, do you answer the phone every time it rings? Right? Do you allow that phone to, and it was funny because I had a guy the other day. It's like like finally, I guess, got over that. Oh, I don't have to answer the phone, and he kind of asked. I was like, I've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
I mean, because and I know you do the same thing. We have things, if we want to get them accomplished, we can't let interruptions, and that's the problem with
Yep.
social, with
Yep.
cell phones and everything else, that people think that they have access to us 24/7.
Yeah.
And we have to be careful with that, or we're not gonna, we're not gonna get anything done. So I'm definitely, I don't know if I'd say diving into, but I'm definitely learning how AI can help me.
Hmm.
I look at it as more as an assistant as opposed to a replacement,
Yeah.
because I think people still want to hear our voice. In fact,
Yep.
we were having a conversation yesterday about the fact that with things like Sora and some of these other AI video things, when do people even believe some of these videos anymore? And so I think that's where it's important, where like here it's the real Jim, it's the real Pete talking to the audience.
Hmm.
It's not some AI avatar. And even though there's been a couple times where maybe I've been, had some AI, photo or short video of me, it's not something that I'm not going to sit there at this point, because I don't see, in my perspective, the reason behind it. Why would I create an AI avatar to do content for me?
Yeah.
Because I feel like the amount of time it takes me to come up with that content and then go back and say, okay, did the avatar, does that seem like me? I could have done it myself.
Yeah.
That's my perspective with video. It's like and even when you see people using some of these voice things, it's like that doesn't sound like a
Hmm.
real person the way they would really talk, especially if you know the person.
Yeah.
And so I think it becomes a trust thing when it comes to, you know, is it live or is it Memorex? And only some
Yeah.
people will understand that.
No, I totally agree with the being authentic with your community. And the minute you go over the edge and want to be like cutting edge technology and everything generated by AI, you're going to lose people. When you're talking about Chrome, I did notice the last probably 3 to 4 weeks. I always tell people, get get your tabs, close your tabs, restart your computer, because I do use Chrome on a Mac. But all of a sudden, the last couple, I got some delays. And I know I didn't have anything open, and I tell them not to have anything open. So there may be something to that. And so I will definitely try Atlas because I have a Mac. But you're right, people don't have the most up to date equipment. So you got to be sensitive. You had told me, I think it was it was at the Veterans Expo. I got that mic that you told me about, and I did a talk over at Tommy Nobis, and I did do one thing, which was switch it from the iPhone mic to the
Oh,
external mic. So, so all of a sudden, I had a friend that was recording it, and I looked at it afterwards, and it was no sound.
oh God, yeah.
Now he did a couple minutes on his own phone, but that one little step, you miss one step. Now that talk, which I had scheduled for 6 months or 5 months, is now me saying a word.
Right.
You can't like go back and dub an audio in it. It's done.
Well,
So
and it's funny going back to your Chrome comment. So
yeah.
I used to produce a show for a company called Navica, and the lady that was the talent had a
Hmm.
MacBook Air.
Hmm.
And when we used Chrome, with StreamYard and her trying to, add a second camera and another microphone, it would crash every
Mm,
time. And when we go and look at like the Chrome, you see Chrome taking up all these resources. So
yes.
we actually switched to Brave, same
Oh.
computer,
Mhm.
everything worked. So there's definitely something to the whole, and they're all similar in that I guess the word is they're Chromium browsers, which I don't know if that means related to Google Chrome. I'm assuming that because of the word Chromium.
Mhm.
But what do they have going on
Yeah.
in the background? So,
Yeah.
um, like with Atlas, I really haven't added a lot to it. But what's also cool is I can open up, ask Chat GPT, and it'll run, literally side by side to that window. And I think maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. Like I could ask it, how are the people framed in this video, and it's going to tell me, well, uh, you know, Pete could do this, or this is good, this is bad. Oh, and here's some improvements you could make. So I think that's kind of some neat feedback, and you can take it into your YouTube channel and it's like, tell me some better titles for my videos that will help
Mhm.
it get found by search. And so that's where I think Atlas is powerful. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Google does the same thing. But it's kind of like Perplexity with Comet, and uh, ChatGPT with Atlas have kind of jumped out there first.
Mhm.
So not only do we have the streaming service wars, we have the browser wars, we have the you know, what's the best AI to use? I'm actually I use Magi, which gives you, like, I think it's probably 35, 40 different programs all for one low price,
Mhm.
which includes ChatGPT, which includes Claude, which includes Grok. So I don't have to sit there and have 15 different subscriptions,
Mhm.
because if you ask a question, you're going to get different answers. And
Mhm.
even I did kind of the same thing with uh, Comet and Atlas, right? Kind of the same thing, asking the same question, getting different results, saying, okay, well, right now this one seems to give me better answers of what I'm looking for versus the other.
Yeah, when this was probably about 5, 6 months ago, when I think Monica had shared with me Notebook LM, and so I found it to be a great research tool of just diving into different modes of learning. So I'll put a video in there, and it'll spit out notes and all kinds of good things to help me learn faster. Well, when I did it, I had some notebooks open and I
Mm.
did a podcast and it was a wreck. It just it couldn't. The audio was terrible, and then all of a sudden, I'm saying, they were hot wired because it was the Ronald McDonald House, and Lisa knew well in advance, but they were wired. But I had, a couple notebooks open, didn't even realize that I was kind of liking the education part of it, and it was giving me, but I never thought to get the heck out of that. And it really messed up the whole, we couldn't even use it really
Mm.
because it was so, there was so much interference with that. So you
Right.
got to know, what you, what bandwidth you got to test things, you got to try things, you got to do things. Like if you're not testing, you're going to find yourself all of a sudden doing something that you really have put some time into it, and it's going to mess up. So you need professionals, and you're my professional I go to, Jim. So what do you think, like live streaming? I mean, it doesn't take much to know, kind of like AI, that it's continuing to grow. What are you like focusing on for next year based on what you've learned for this year? What's going on in your business that you could share with us, that we always love to hear from somebody that spent so many years in this growing industry?
Well, in one aspect, I guess I would say less is more. I think,
Mhm.
kind of to your point, like when I go live, I'm probably, well, one, I'm not going live on Facebook anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I may do some reels over there, but the fact that they're going to take your live down after 30 days, it's not worth going through all that effort to put it back up there. Because one, the comments aren't going to come with it. It's just going to be basically you're just reposting the video. And so YouTube so right now I would say in this order: Substack, YouTube, LinkedIn. But LinkedIn of late, I've noticed a couple of things, and this just came up. I guess we just noticed it this past week. Show I produced, the assistant for the person I produced the show for. It's like, hey, when I went to watch the show live, the live video didn't show up where the banner is, right? I was like, oh, well, I didn't know that. So on this show I was on last night, I went and looked at the guy's profile while we were live, and it didn't show up. So unbeknownst to us, or maybe I missed the memo, it appears that now people that are going live on LinkedIn, it's not like replacing your banner while you're live. And so, so they keep making changes. And, then I had someone say, oh, well, they want you to go live on your business page. But see, it goes back to they're trying to tell us how they want us to grow our audience, not how we want to grow our audience.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I think Substack and YouTube, you're able to do that. I think, the difference too, maybe right now between Substack and YouTube is probably more restrictive in the sense that there may be stuff you want to talk about that YouTube's going to take it down. In fact, it's funny that several years ago, right? We go back to COVID. I think Jeff Sheehan, and I interviewed this doctor out of Houston that I guess it was controversial at the time, right? He was saying, oh, you should take malaria pills and all this stuff. Well, we went live, and I guess, I don't know, it wasn't right away, but down the road, YouTube basically took that video down and said that, my video didn't meet community standards. Why? Because they didn't like this guy's perspective on COVID.
Yeah.
And so that to me is a little bothersome. And so that's where, at least right now, as Substack, you can, have whatever kind of publication you want, go live with whatever you want. And in a sense, the community is going to dictate, right? Because if nobody's going to come watch you or read you, well, you're not going to get any growth. They're not automatically going to serve you up to the masses. And then the other thing that I'm starting to play with, for 2026 is Skool, with a K, Skool, because you're able to have a community, but you're also able to live stream inside of your community. So my next experiment is to see, and I think there's a way even with StreamYard where I could take that Skool live stream, because it's in a browser tab, right? And I could share that as the live stream inside of StreamYard, but you would be seeing the people, because you can do, Skool theoretically could become a Zoom killer if they do a couple of things. It's not quite there yet, but it's functionality wise, it feels very similar to Zoom. Not so much StreamYard yet, but you can do, screen sharing. You can also, from a producer standpoint, I can turn people's cameras and video off, and audio off. So that can be a good thing, especially if you've got a bunch of people jumping in. But they've also released a webinar version, right? So then you have even more control. And so I think from a community building aspect, the ability to have that content to be able to repurpose it for your community is maybe more important than, oh, I want to see, it's not about, how many likes can I get? It's more about, it's that few people that you're helping that, bond with you, that want that message that you bring. And so, like, even from a YouTube perspective, outside of what we do with Dealcasters, I'm doing more short educational like videos that maybe I start out on Substack as an article, but I take that video and it's like, okay, that's a new YouTube video, and this is the topic. But they're
Mm-hmm.
not they're not getting the write-up that I have on Substack.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, I would like people to come to Substack because as we talked about before the show, guess what you get when you get a subscriber on Substack? An email.
Yep.
And that is, it's been true for years. Pete, from your previous life as a much more of a marketing guy than what you do now.
Mm-hmm.
The gold is in the list.
Yes.
So even if Substack goes down next week, I have the list. I can email those people and say, hey, here's where I'm going now. If you want to come along, come along. Where even with YouTube, right? Someone asked me the other day, hey, YouTube's going to let you do courses in their, that's, I guess, something they're rolling out. Okay, that sounds great in theory. I can do the same thing on Skool. But what's YouTube's cut, I guess, would be number one. Two, am I getting the emails of these people? Probably not, because we don't get them now. So it still kind of goes back to, YouTube is trying to be, I guess, community slash, social media like, but they're not. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Google crushed, as you may remember, Google Plus back in the day. And I loved Google Plus. I made some great connections there that I'm still friends with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's the issue with some of these other platforms, is that they're trying to be all things to all people.
Yeah. Never worked.
And I think that's where, at least so far, yes, Substack has added some things, but I like it just even from a, I guess you want to say, peace of mind thing. I feel like when I go on there, I'm seeing the people that I'm following. If I want to learn some new stuff, I can search. And it's kind of across the board topics, right? There's people writing about sports. There's people writing about technology. There's people writing about things that are going on in our country now. So you can kind of choose what you want to see and hear. And where on these others, right, we're just kind of fed what we have to take.
You're renting, versus owning.
Yes.
And owning is an email list that they give you permission to be able to stay in touch with them. And I've had, this was years ago, but it was probably, I've had one YouTube channel shut down completely. I've had a Yelp account just deleted. I had like 400 reviews. They said I violated community, whatever. And you can't ever dispute these things. Once it's done, they just wipe you out and see you later. So that's not the way to build a community, because they have total control over, and they don't even explain it outside of just saying you violated community policy. What does that mean?
I had that happen, and this is what's funny. I was sharing an article to a group that I'm in. It's a small group. It's a mastermind from Substack, and it was a link. And it was a link just talking about, I think I can't remember the exact topic, but it was a topic that I had written about. And Facebook basically wouldn't allow it to post, and then said that I had violated community standards. And I'm like I was trying to spam people or mislead people. It's like, no, these are the people that I'm in a community with. I could have sent them to it a different way, but I was like, I'll just post it to the group that we have. And so I didn't go to Facebook jail, but it's just like, I have this mark on my profile I'm like, for what? Because I was sharing my own content, and you didn't like that it was a URL that you didn't like. And you do wonder sometimes too, and we've heard this, right, that these platforms outside of Substack don't like when you share links that take people somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like, well, so I mean, I probably won't get, I won't leave Facebook, but in fact, funny story. So last week I was up in Philadelphia for the Marine Corps birthday, 250th birthday, and I did a 29-second video recording a bunch of Marine veterans. We were singing the Marine hymn for the birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not even in the video because I've got my camera and I'm just like circling, doing kind of a room shot, and you're hearing everybody, singing. My reels in the last week have gotten over 500,000 views because of that video.
Wow.
Because that ended up going over 100,000, which then kicked into a video I did with the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps when he was at Rally Point, and he was, like, doing a cadence thing and telling a story, and so that's gotten, like, 240,000 views, and I've gotten over 1,000 new Facebook followers
Wow.
in a 30-second video. But it's not like it's not, it's not time for me to close up shop and go on vacation because I haven't seen any money out of it,
Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
I'm critically monetized, but,
Yeah.
so I guess you could say that's what I would call my first time really going viral.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just funny, right? Because it was just videos that my face wasn't in it, but it was on my profile. And so kind of goes back to what is it that you share, right? Share what's going on for people to connect with. It's not always about the talking head thing. And so that's, I think, for me too, and that's what I do like about Substack. And I've got some, ideas, thoughts on experimentation with that, of even as an example, especially if you don't have a lot of paid subscribers, or even if you do, um, go live to your paid subscribers, but don't notify them.
Mm-hmm.
So at least then you can go live, or maybe you even call the live a test, so maybe they ignore you, but you record something live,
Mm-hmm.
functionality of the phone, and then take that video because it's now in your drafts in Substack, and now you can repurpose it to whatever it was you were trying to do. So, because you can, in theory, well, it's not a theory. So, as an example, I could invite you on Substack to join my Substack if we're using the app, not if we're doing because the desktop is more like what we're doing here. It's just RTMP.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious, how many people can you get on one Substack? Um, and because you can turn the camera off, you could, in theory, make it a audio, kind of like a clubhouse-like environment. What I don't know though is if I invite you, am I able to mute you?
Mm-hmm.
Because that used to be like the clubhouse problems, like people would jump in and start talking when they didn't want them talking. Because there are people that are still camera shy and
Mm-hmm.
they're fine with talking, and so because you could take that audio and make it a podcast on Substack and
Mm-hmm.
other places. But then that's right, maybe not as much production challenge. You could do it from anywhere. Um, just make sure you have good audio and I guess decent internet or cell service so that you're not borking out during it. So that's one of the things I've thought could
Mm-hmm.
be interesting as well, because I think, in fact, it was interesting, because we both live here in the Cobb County area.
Mm-hmm.
There was a very controversial school board meeting the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a YouTube channel that was, I guess, attempting to go live from there to share the public comments with people, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they were able to go live. So I don't know if it's because of their equipment setup, right? Like I could
Mm-hmm.
have just, right, hit record on your camera and upload it later, or maybe Substack would have been the way to do it, right? Just hit go live,
Yeah.
have that thing go in there and save it. So, I don't know. I think that's where, right, educating people, here's ways for you to get your story with video.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's so many ways to repurpose it. Like you said, you could turn it into a written item. In fact, if you think about it, Pete, the number, and you maybe have already done it, the number of videos and interviews you've done, even just taking those conversations, you could make a book out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, we do. Like we take our podcasts and make them into a magazine, a community magazine. that's another level. But, you know, I have noticed like Skool, because I'm in two communities that I'm in there. And I've noticed as I'm getting to know some of them, because I'm in Mark Moss's Q Wave community. And, you know, it's a lot of engagement in the community. And as he said at the beginning, that's the value of that, is having that community and sharing and just how that works. So I like what Skool's doing. I have 9 courses, but they're on Simplero. So, but I'm just studying the Skool model, and I kind of like, because it tells you on the profile that the person's involved in 6 communities,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so you get to know that person, and you know the other communities they're involved with. Obviously, if somebody's in 5 or 6 communities, they're seeing value in that Skool
Right.
platform. And everybody tries to do everything, but you're right. If you try to appeal to everybody, you appeal to nobody. You can't be everything to everybody. So you
Yeah.
got to find out what really works for what you want to do, and then make sure they're invested in you.
Mm-hmm.
It does frustrate me. LinkedIn, I don't know what they're doing. They're keep changing things. I don't even think they know who they are. But it is very confusing to where it goes. People say, "Where can I see that?" And I have to go into StreamYard, find the link, and to be able to find it, because I can't like search it and
Yeah,
find
yeah, see, that's where to me Facebook and LinkedIn, even though LinkedIn created this videos tab on your personal profile, they've never really made it like user friendly to find
it.
older
Yes.
content.
Yep.
And that's why it's like maybe from an awareness standpoint, going live on LinkedIn is a good idea. I mean, doing even, and I don't know if you've tried this yet, Pete, but what I have done is I will take one of my Substack posts and I turn that into a LinkedIn newsletter minus the video. And then
Mm.
I'll say, if you want to see the video, here's where you got to go to watch the
Ooh,
video,
I like that.
which is my Substack. But I will tell you that even though I have, 1,000 plus subscribers to my LinkedIn newsletter, I don't get the same engagement opens and stuff like that like I do on Substack.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like, you know, and once again, I don't have those people's emails,
Yeah,
right?
I think
Um, you
that's a
know,
big disadvantage is of not being able to communicate with your community on your terms, which is
right,
an email or a phone number or text.
right. Yeah, so I think from like it's still that whole thing of even if you I think look at the statistics, I believe and this is probably being kind, less than 5% of people on LinkedIn actually create content.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a small percent. And I can't look, I don't do social media for, like I used to. I maybe spend 5 minutes a day, maybe. And I'm doing it just to, I set a timer, I go and connect,
Mhm.
engage, and then I get off. But I can't listen to any of the videos on LinkedIn. It would drive me crazy. Even if I was back, I feel like I'm on TikTok, you know? I mean, and but I like to
Well,
read.
that's where they've switched because now
Yeah.
that's what they want. They want the short video. I think they want vertical video, and it reminds me of when I can't remember, maybe they called it LinkedIn Stories, but they did a thing but they did away with it, right? Just like back when it was still Twitter, Twitter did I think it was called Fleets,
Hmm.
which was like these short stories, and they did, so it's like, and I think that's what's kept me from investing too heavily in TikTok. It's like, well, one, was TikTok going to go away? And then two, I've even heard with TikTok that since things have changed because of, I guess you could say pressure from our government, that people that are talking certain topics are basically getting, either their content taken down, so TikTok's not the wide, free, open place it used to be either. So it kind of goes back to, well, where are you going to find that? I don't know if you've been on Threads. I don't quite get Threads.
Either.
Some people spend a lot of time on it. I guess it was supposed to be an ex-competitor, but I just, even when I post stuff on there, it's like I might get a few likes. So it's, and right, maybe that's our fault, Pete, because we don't get on there every day and post so many threads per day. But
You can only do so much. And
yes,
you got to choose where your community is. And if you think you can just be on everywhere, you're nowhere.
right,
You're
right.
just watered down and you're not going deep in connection and engagement.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times these short videos, it's almost like entertainment, maybe edutainment, if the person knows
Yes.
what they're doing.
Okay.
And people are just mindlessly scrolling
Yep.
because they want to, I guess, listen to something and they got nothing else to do. I mean,
Yeah.
so I think that to me is definitely a big challenge. So so like I said, for me, it's those three. I can't see getting rid of LinkedIn, mainly because you as well. We're business owners. We're looking to work with business people. Facebook. Like I said, between Facebook and Instagram, I just don't have enough time for it. I mean, and I've seen some people on Instagram with big Instagram followings coming. People are coming over to Substack
Hmm.
slowly
I
but
believe it.
surely.
Yeah.
Now whether that'll last, who knows, right? But sometimes I don't know your thoughts, but I'm like, there's got to be something better, or somebody could invent something better than Facebook at some point. It's just a matter
Oh,
of
yeah.
when.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually deleted Facebook off my phone because I just saw I was never doing anything. I didn't see any value in it. And I don't do social media anyway. But then it was messing up my Instagram when I would post from StreamYard to Instagram. It was not working. So I put it back on there. Now it's working. So but I if I never saw another Facebook um, view, I wouldn't miss it one bit.
Right.
Just don't
Right.
anything there. But I like the content of Substack. I think it's a higher level of quality. You know,
Yes.
you got
Yes.
to think it, you got to write it, you can do the different, learning modes. I mean, I watch some videos on there, but I have certain people I watch, which is you, and maybe I thought there's another person, but I'm very targeted on what I learn. I don't want to, because you said it earlier, the entertainment and the consumption of content is out of control. We spend 4 hours watching TV, up to 2 hours scrolling, and it's just entertainment. And if you want to be entertained that much, good luck building a business because
Hmm.
you got to you got to create value. And
Right.
so what do you think, like, as you tell me on with Skool, like, what do you see, like, let's go back to how you're using that video that you're creating to be able to build that community. I like the education. I like the courses. I have 9 courses, but they're on a different platform.
Right.
So I'm kind of thinking, I love community. I love, engaging in the community.
Hmm.
Skool. So tell me how you're doing, like, StreamYard, and what you see the integration with live streaming and Skool.
Yeah. So what I'm initially doing with Skool is I've created a community. So I'm paying the $9 a month,
Okay.
and it's called. I just want to double check I got the right name for it, but I want to say it's the Authentic Video Academy. And so my whole mindset there is this is where and it starts out with the Substack, where people that are in my community um, are able to join for free right now. And so the idea being that this is where I can kind of do more of those deep dives.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe at some point I will go from having it being free to I'll have a free, and what I like is they now have tiers. So
Mm-hmm.
you can have a free, you could have, I guess you could call it your standard, and then you can have like a VIP. And so maybe the people that pay for VIP, once a month you do a live inside of Skool where it's kind of like ask me anything, or you're doing some sort of deep dive with them. And so if they miss it, you've got the recording for those that couldn't make it that are part of that group. And so, like I said, the idea maybe behind taking that Skool live and putting it into StreamYard would maybe be like, okay, this is how many, because right now Skool doesn't have a way to live stream somewhere else with your live.
Okay.
So it's more about like, how do I take this experience that we're having in Skool, put it out on, whether it's even on Substack, right? Like, hey, we're live here in my Skool community. I'm going to go live on Substack, share that screen in a sense. And as long as I know everything's working right, it's like, hey, and if you want to join our Skool community, my only, if you want to call it, requirement is subscribe to my Substack. And I'm not saying paid Substack, just subscribe to my Substack. So that's kind of like, this is where we go from you're a subscriber to now you're in a community where we can do a little bit more than we can really do in Substack at the moment. I mean, because you can upload native video to Skool. You can, I can send you a video, message through their chat. It works on the phone as well as working on, desktop. So you've got that functionality. And I just think what they're building, is really cool. I mean, Alex Hormozy is all over it. He's been growing with that as well. So that's kind of how I see even, and I know you and I have talked about this a little bit, but even if you think about it, you could create a community on Skool that is for your, i.e., local community. Right? So like, hey, if you're in this community, this is where you're going to find out, because there is a calendar in there, right?
Yeah, I noticed that.
So the calendar could be, here's the events coming up, for this month, because aside from the person paying to create the community, which, like I said, you can do it for $9. The only, right, if you want to call it the downside of $9 is you don't get a custom URL, and you can't have, a team. That go to the team, you got to go to $99 a month, which right now to me is not a big deal. I'm fine with the $9. But, right, you could then like, okay, here's all the events, but it's also like you're creating a place for people to create a forum where people can ask questions and people in the community can respond. And I think that's what Facebook groups used to do. Now they're not doing it. I like the gamification of Skool as well, like the people that get more involved, right? They move up that ladder level, so to speak.
Yeah,
so
that's always a great feature.
So you can reward them, right? Maybe, maybe you have some business owners, if it's like for like a business community that, hey, the people that do XYZ, right? They get a discount, whatever, you give them a free gift card. There's really so many things that could possibly be done with that. So it's kind of that whole idea of, I mean, because you look at things like, and you're probably familiar like with Patch, right? Patch is kind of this, for people that don't know, it's this, kind of geographic local news sort of thing. Now, I don't know, sometimes they might have some local people, but I think sometimes they're pulling info. Well, you could do that same thing on Substack. You could have a Substack that's for your community where it's like, it's kind of like what papers used to be like, right? And so now, and that's the beauty of Substack as well, is you can have multiple publications. So and that publication, those subscribers are completely independent of the ones on your other. So it's not like you're, oh gosh, now I'm getting an email from Jim about this other publication that I don't care about.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to think about. So then if you see you got enough interest, right, you create that community in Skool, and you can kind of take things up a notch, right? That's where maybe you have these, these, if you want to call it, meetings for lack of a better term, that are like a Zoom or as a webinar. So you want to, because you want to control the audience where, hey, we're going to have Pete come in and talk about the issue we're having with, construction over at this place or the other and why it's important. So I think that's where a community in school could be very powerful. But, it goes back to, how much time you got in the day,
Yeah.
how much can you really do with these things? And so that's kind of my perspective, I think, of where I really like it. And I could, and you can also create a course that, well, you got a couple options. You could do a course, right, where people pay to be a part of that course, but you could also just have, hey, if you want to like pick my brain, you pick that and you're going to pay, but you're going to get that one-on-one time to pick my brain.
Yeah. I mean, it's information, if applied to your business, is extremely valuable. And you gotta, I use it pay to play. I mean, there's plenty of free information out there, but you got to know what you want to accomplish and find the people that are going to shorten the learning curve so you can apply it to your business. And I think platforms change. They change. I mean, Facebook, forget it. They're just, you got to be aware of how the market is changing. Like when you introduced me to Substack, I like it. I haven't applied it. Will I apply it next year? Yes. I'm studying Skool because I'm in a community, the second community I'm in. I love the leadership board. I love the classroom. I love how you post videos and in a course because it's not going all the way out to, it's hosted in that platform and it stays there.
Right.
So you really can have your community that you want to provide.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to use the word, right, safe space. I mean, even as an example, if you decide to, put a video in there with music that if you put it on YouTube, they take it down. You don't have to worry about that. Right?
Yes.
So I think that's some of those benefits. And I think when I look at things, and I'm sure you see it as well, Pete, because you're, definitely very involved with community stuff, is that a lot of these business owners are still kind of stuck in, I'll call it the past. Maybe it's not, but it's
No,
like, even when they go out to these events, it's like it's maybe somebody just taking their cell phone and trying to do something on Facebook, like, hey, look, we're here, we're live on Facebook. And it's like, nobody cares, nobody sees it. But if you were live on Substack, and now it's kind of like, right, I can do front and back camera, so I'm not having to do that. I always joke, it's right. They take the camera, like, well, let me get you to see all these guys. And it just doesn't work right. Where now I can flip the camera like we did. It's like, okay, look, here's what we got going on in front of us. And then you can come back to you. But now it's also saved as a draft in your Substack for that publication that you can then, it's like, hey, here's what's happened at XYZ. And people that missed it get a much better context for what happened. But, I think sometimes for me, and maybe it's selfish, is I just don't feel like trying to convince people to do something that to me just seems to make sense. I mean, you obviously get it. You've continued to do that. I mean, even some of the people that you've had, whether it's been over at the live events that you've done, it's kind of like I still feel like they don't take that next step. Right? Sure, they like, oh great, I get to be on Pete's show, but then what? And are you doing anything to repurpose what Pete's doing? Are you reaching out to these other people and saying, hey, how can we collaborate? And that's my thing too, right? It's about collaboration,
absolutely,
not competition.
Yep.
And so I think that's where we have to, and I know you are definitely one of these people, and I know part of it's probably too because of what you went through, right? We can't stop learning. We can't stop trying to improve ourselves because the alternative is we're not going to be here one day. And so make the most of it. I mean, you're old enough to retire, but I know Pete's not retiring anytime soon.
Not until I hit the over 100. And I hopefully I'm in good shape that I can continue because, there I do this for human drivers, and it's aliveness, connection, meaningful connection, and meaningful like that pursuit of something bigger, and then personal growth. And
Right.
if you're not doing those four things, you're going to go downhill. And I saw it at Overture.
Mm-hmm.
Is if you just are sitting in front of the TV consuming TV and TikTok videos, hey, you're just your time on this earth is going to be limited because we are born to create. And I
Yep.
like what you said about, you know, you have the live video. I only go to my Rotary, and that's it. I don't. And then the events that I want to volunteer for, I don't go to any local events because it's just the entertainment factor. It's like you see the same people over, and what your time is the most precious thing we
Yes.
have. And if you think that you got to be everywhere and show up at all these events and then seeing the same people and you're not doing anything but, hey, what has happened since the last week that I saw you? It becomes a consumption of time. And if you're
Yep.
not creating and have a strategy, then you'll fall into the entertainment consumption model, and that'll
Right.
get you nowhere.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think too as well, Pete, what we tend to find is, are we in the wrong room?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I
Exactly.
and I think that was for me, and sure, maybe that sounds we can call it braggadocious, whatever, but it's like, for what I know I can bring to the table, I'm not gonna sit there and waste all my time doing a 60-second, hey, here's what I do and this is what I'm looking for. Um, you're gonna, because what's funny, and you may get the same thing. People say, "Oh, I think I've seen you somewhere." I said, "Well, could have been on YouTube. It could have been on Amazon. I'm in a lot of places, and then you get into more of a conversation, right? Or I mean, even having the conversation at a couple, and I won't use names to protect the association's innocence, but it'll be like, why don't you guys have a LinkedIn company page for the association? Oh, well,
Mhm.
we're going to work on that. And it takes 5 minutes. It's free. And you could be creating events to invite people. But instead of,
Yeah.
you're like, well, how are we going to get more people to show up? Or, you have a luncheon and you have a speaker and everybody feels all good. And then nothing happens,
Yeah.
you know?
I think the world changed from local to global, and what we're doing here could be enjoyed halfway around the world. And so if you're not thinking global, which content like this is global, but if you're in a local association, like I went to with a friend of mine to a local network, and it was like 80 people. I had I see you wear these. I wear these, not this, but I wear the bone, the the headphones that you can hear people and listen to something. I would have literally probably jumped out of my skin listening to 80 people giving a 30-second pitch. I mean,
Hmm.
then it goes back again, and it's like, they got to give another pitch about somebody that they connected. And it was like, that is time. That's valuable time. And if you're going to spend 4 hours, 3 hours a week listening and doing the one-on-ones, you're wasting so much valuable time that here we've been on for an hour. We've done a lot of great ideas, content, just talking as opposed to driving to these events and listening to the same people say the same thing.
Yeah, just for between the two of us, maybe getting to speak for 2 minutes total. And then
Yeah.
when the event is over, most people running off to whatever their next thing is.
And you
Um,
forget what somebody said. You don't
yeah,
remember that.
yeah. And I think, yeah, and I think, I think that's where you and I are in, such violent agreement, right? It's just like, I just, I don't know. It's like, I just don't completely get it. I don't mind going, like, I'm more likely to go to like a one-time event if I think there's a reason behind it, right? If there's an opportunity
Yeah.
to be a speaker,
Yeah.
meet someone that maybe I've connected with virtually, but not in
Yeah.
person yet.
Totally.
But, I just, you know, when I look at my business, this is what's funny, right? When I look at my business pre-COVID, post-COVID, I think I've been more successful post-COVID by cutting back on a lot of that stuff.
Yes.
Um,
Totally agree.
because
Totally agree.
because it's like, okay, oh, there's this networking event every week at 3 o'clock on Thursday. Okay, but I used to go to that every week religiously, right? And you the same, right? Sure, we made a lot of friends
Mm-hmm.
or acquaintances, depending on what term you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
But did they say, "Hey, Pete, I'm ready to do some marketing stuff. I want to hire you"? No.
Yep.
So it's like, one, because when they say, "Well, how much is it?" and you give them your price, they're like, "Oh, well, I can't afford that." Well, then that's okay
Yeah,
because
everybody has a budget, but you're the best investment you can ever make. And I think we kid ourselves by being busy,
yes.
thinking we're growing our business, but we're being busy.
Yes, I
And
it's so funny. I said that the other day, right? People are more like they talk about, oh, they're active, but are like they actually accomplishing anything?
yeah,
Like, oh, I went to 5 networking events this week and I spent 10 hours networking. Okay. Do you have any new contracts? Do you
yeah,
have any business coming up from it?
yeah.
Well,
No, I
no.
mean it's a false sense of that you are doing something instead of what did you accomplish with the time that you can't get back.
Right.
Those 3, 4 hours that you went to event. And you just, I mean, it's great to be social, but separate social from your business because, hey, look, I love to be around people, but if I'm building a business, I don't need to be entertained.
Yes.
I go to somewhere where I can make an impact, like Rotary, and we're doing all these projects, and I
Mhm.
can have deeper relationships because we're making an impact in the city and around the world versus just being entertained and
Right.
just going to stuff. Yeah.
Right.
I think that is a valuable thing that I hope people can understand because I think we basically I agree COVID. Now I had my stroke right after COVID, so I was down for a little bit and I was out of just connection for a whole year. So I was anxious to meet people, but then I went, dang, it's great that's social, but if you're building a business, you have to think, what are you doing to help grow your business? And if you can't come up with a good answer, then you're just being entertained. And that's fine if you want the entertainment, but don't think that you are being busy building your business because the two are very different.
Right. And I think it goes back to, and I learned this through hurricanes, is that be careful about putting your eggs in, i.e., the proverbial local basket.
Mm,
Because if
yeah,
something happens locally that has a major impact on your business, how do you recover?
yeah,
If what you do is usable outside of your area, that's what you need to be looking at. I mean, even recently, I've been invited, to go to like this virtual networking meeting, but of course, then they want to charge you to join, and it's like you're going to sit there and you know you get in a Zoom room and you're talking to 2 other people that you've just met, and they're going to tell you like, oh yeah, I make this and I make that, and part of you're probably saying this is not really what I'm interested in,
hmm yeah,
or they're trying to convince you why you're wrong.
yeah, yeah. I had a guy from Dubai a couple weeks ago, and I met him. I meet better people on LinkedIn, but I don't hang out on LinkedIn. But I learned so much about Dubai that I never knew before I had him, and he's been there for 35 years, and I had some ideas about it, but I didn't know until we had a podcast and a conversation that I learned so much about the opportunity over there that I never would have at a
Right.
local event. So, yeah, it is. Well, I want to be respectful of time, but I could talk all day long with you, Jim. So,
No, this has been fun. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I love it. I think I want our viewers, and then I want to ask, I'm going to put some of how they can get a hold of you up on the screen. So, but I love Skool and Substack. I think they're two emerging platforms that if you haven't had any experience in either of those platforms, lean into them, learn them. I mean, I think and I think I just know I do so many that I don't. I think I might have because I don't like clutter. I
Right.
don't. So tell our viewers how can they get a hold of you? I thought I could put something up on the screen.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, the best way is I would say right now, Substack. Just go to jimfuse.substack.com. That's
Mhm.
a great way for us to connect. Also, LinkedIn, Jim Fuse, and I'd probably say those are the two best. Or just ask Pete; he'll tell you how to get
Yeah,
a hold of me.
I'll do this. Let me put this up here because if somebody wants to, I was trying this the other day. The QR code. I love it. So if you want a book a clarity call, I'm going to put the QR code right above Jim's head. So
Nice.
scan that or book a clarity session because you got to get clear about where you're going in 2026. Because if you don't have a strategy, you're going to be distracted. You'll go for anything, anywhere, any place. So have a strategy for your business. And if you just go to petekane.me, I think I can put this up here, where you can schedule a clarity session. And if you want to get a hold of Jim, I'll connect you up with Jim, or you can look him up online. And I think I have it here. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, just go to
There you go.
petekane.me/connect. We have a free course for you. If you use the word gift, you can get the free course and get a hold of Jim. Because if you want to know live streaming, you want to know cutting edge things like Substack and Skool, and know where you can spend your time to get the most from your business, learn from an expert, learn from somebody that has been in this industry almost from the time it started. So, you can't find too many people like that. Yeah, I've been doing it for 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that just doesn't cut it in today's age. So, what would you say, Jim, as we end up and finish up? What would be the one thing you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this
Well,
podcast?
yeah, I really think to your point, even if it's not mine or Pete's, check out Substack, check out Skool, see how that might help you, especially if you're looking to build community and looking for like something fresh and new as opposed to, falling into we'll call it the 80/20 or the 80, like, oh, well, there's 3 billion people on Facebook. Yeah, but you're going to do business with 3 billion people? No. So, think about, as they, I guess, sometimes say, right, less is more. So, whittle that stuff down. And I think that's kind of how I'm looking at it, not getting caught up in oh, I've gotta be everywhere, right? You don't. People
Mhm.
that are telling you that are wrong. You need to be where the people that you think want to work with you are. And you may be surprised where that place actually is.
I love that, Jim. Thank you for being so giving and sharing such good information to our community. I appreciate you. Always a pleasure,
Thank you.
like having a conversation with you, Jim. So thank you so much for all that you do. And yeah, thank you for your Marine service and everything you do for our veteran community.
Hoorah, Semper Fi.